Hello there, not Ben Looms here, the CEO of Syrinscape, but actually Barry Doublet, one of the content creators for Syrinscape, here with a tip on how to do looping, and in particular, how to create special loops in Syrinscape. Now, if we go over to my computer, you can see that I am using Cubase. This is how I compose all my music and actually create all my sound effects. Now, this sound effect that I'm creating is for the Curse of Strahd, and it's for the chapter The Old Bone Grinder. Spoiler alert, it's a windmill. But anywho, I digress. So I've created here a windmill sound, which is going to be rhythmic, and it needs to be rhythmic when it goes into the Syrinscape app and stay rhythmic throughout, giving this ominous presence of this creaky old windmill turning. So here we have my three elements that I have for my windmill effect. So if I start it here and single them out, there's a kind of ticking over clock sound. You have this whooshing sound, and then you have this whooshing sound, but with a mechanical bassy sound. And then when you put them all together, there you go. As you can see, it is a rhythmic loop sample, and you want to get this to be constantly looping perfectly throughout. So what I will do is I will make this sample, there we go, a bit longer than what it actually should be. So in this case it is 55 seconds, and as you can see, I've put it into time because that's the best way to do this. And I'm going to export it, render it, so to speak, and also have it imported into the track. So when I do this, ta-da, it appears in my track down here, and I can solo this like so. And there I have my sample. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to make this a loopable sample. So I will cut it at a point where it's most noisy, because that will cover over any clicks. So I'm going to cut it there. And I'm going to put this at the end of my sample, and I'm going to put that at the beginning of my sample. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink my sample down a bit so it is still rhythmic. Okay, and it looks like this is the point where it goes vlum, vlum. Let's move it one more second over, vlum. Okay, and I will crossfade them. Now I'm going to move this crossfade a little bit this way so you don't lose out on this windmill wave going. So if we do listen to the crossfade, it sounds seamless. And to make it even more seamless, instead of popping and ending like that, you shrink the sample down to the same size. And so we're going to have our crossfade, and then we're going to have our loop like that. Now that's perfect, isn't it? That is a perfect loop. And again, you will render that off. Now this Windmill 3 sample is now a perfect loop. You can use that practically in video games and maybe even on your CD player or MP3 player, and it will loop perfectly. But what we're going to do is we're going to be rendering this for Syrinscape. Haha. So what the best thing to do is to have a 2-second crossover instead of a direct gets to the end, loops back, because sometimes the online player doesn't cut cleanly, or it takes a little while to load, and so you'll get a pop or a bit of space. So to get that effect of having 2 seconds, if we go back to this one over here, if we add 2 seconds onto that, because remember we've cut it down there, but we've actually put it here, and so like this is overlaying on here, we can extend that to 2 seconds, and then re-export that and render that. Export audio, windmill 4. Add it into the project. Okay, and there we go. We've got 2 seconds extra, which this 2 seconds here is exactly the same as the 2 seconds there, so we can cross that over. So if we go into the Syrinscape app now, I'm going to set up an element, which is going to be the windmill. Windmill, or bone crusher. There we go. And then I'm going to import that sample. I'm just going to click on that quickly. Windmill 4. Boop. Import. Now with the windmill installed, I go to the element. I then go down here. I click crossfade samples. It's already 2 seconds. Another thing that I'll want to do is this is a stereo sample, so I'm going to want it to not be 3-dimensional. And then I click it. And then we watch with anticipation as the clock goes round and we hear the windmill turn. Exciting, isn't it? That eventually, when it gets there, which should be in about 30 seconds time, this loop will be continuous and it will keep its rhythm, which is a nice thing. Nearly there. Seamless. And there you have it. That is how to create a perfect rhythmic loop in Syrinscape. Hope you found this video useful, and please remember to subscribe and look out for Curse of Strahd when it comes later.